Facebook. Got another episode of Run With It. We're behind the scenes here with JB Kellogg. If you guys are ready, we're just going to launch into the episode. All right, let's do it. Welcome to Run With It, the show that brings you business ideas from proven founders. Each episode, you'll hear a new business idea and the exact steps our guest would take to get started. We're your hosts, Chris Justin.
And I'm Ethan Janney. And on today's show, we have JB Kellogg. He's the founder and CEO, co-CEO of Madwire, which he started when he was 28 years old. And with the help of a championship team, grew the company to over 100 million plus in revenue and 500 plus employees in under 10 years.
That all sounds super impressive, Ethan. But that's not what we're going to talk about today on this episode. Run With It is all about new business ideas. You're basically starting from scratch with us here, JB. You've got one that's going to gamify review generation. We're calling it Reviewify. Welcome to the show, and tell us about the idea that you would like our listeners to run with.
Yeah, I'm glad to be on the show. Glad to be here. I appreciate it. And the idea, really is because reviews are so important today for a small business. It's absolutely critical. And the main problem, that I've seen is that small businesses all want to have a lot of reviews, but they don't really have a process to capture those reviews. There's a lot of automated tools to have email follow-up for reviews and whatnot, but there really isn't a process to get the organization behind it. And so Reviewify, and another name I'm thinking of is just Delightful, I think is cool, because how do we create a delightful experience that makes our customers leave reviews, and how do we create a culture and environment in our organization that inspires that? And so the thinking here is creating a gamification of generating reviews that gets everybody in the organization behind it and excited about it.
Awesome. So I'm a huge fan of reviews in general. I know that sometimes they can be gamed and they're not very authentic, but I as a business owner, in terms of what drives me is reviews, client reviews. I love to get a great Yelp review and actually hear that someone is authentically being served and they're having a good feeling from that experience. So I'm excited to hear more about this. But this is a slightly different angle, right? This is about doing some getting some feedback that can help internally to the company. Like, not only are you as a business as a whole looking at the reviews, but somehow there's a way of connecting it with the employees and the people that work at the business. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that might work?
Yeah, it is kind of two-sided, but the main goal would be, to create something that makes it easier for an organization and a business to get everybody behind capturing reviews. A lot of times it's just like one person in the organization that's kind of responsible for trying to make sure there's some amount of reviews coming in or sending out surveys or whatever it is. And how do you get every single person to where they're excited about it is the thinking. And I was talking to a business owner recently, which was the top rated local #1 business in California, most reviews. And when I was talking with him, he said that, it was like a home services type business. And he said that it was required that their reps got a review every time. And if they missed it one time, they basically were penalized. If they missed it twice, they were let go from the organization. They took it that serious. And they had literally like 1,500 online reviews and unbelievable ratings. And so that obviously is something that you can manage to as a business owner, but how do you create a tool that makes it more fun for the employees? And so the thinking is having an app that all your employees are on, that at least the ones that are working with the customers, where if they have a delightful experience with the customer, they can send them a review request. It comes into the app, and the app would then be able to keep track of how many reviews each employee has captured, what their average rating was, leaderboards. You could organize it by teams, et cetera, so that it's gamified in that regard. So you could see who's the most delightful person in the company, and you can recognize them for that.
I like the idea, but I think I got to play bad cop on this one. So here it comes. If I'm going to put my bad cop hat on here, JB, I can imagine that as a customer, you're going to start feeling pestered by all these employees who are all competing to get your review? What if I already told this one guy, yeah, I'm going to send my review in when I get home, and then I get 3 other calls from your team to try and get a review in, and they're all competing for me, man. It makes me not even want to work with your business.
Yeah, if you have multiple people working with the same customer, that might be an issue. But I think most businesses have just one point of contact generally, that they worked with directly, that would have that information. If you just throw your whole organization behind your database of customers and have them fight to get reviews, that would definitely create a problem. But this is more thinking like, hey, I just went to do a home estimate with this customer. I just did a plumbing job for them, whatever it is. I did a great job. I felt like I delivered great customer service and they're happy. And at the end of that, I'm going to say, hey, do you mind taking just 1 second and leaving a review for me and the company? I'd really appreciate it. I click a button in the app and you get the link in your phone, and you can click it, and you can rate me. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, there's also kind of it's a great objection too, because it's a, especially with people who aren't in sales, maybe they're more in customer service, or they just kind of are more of a pleaser, and they don't know how to manage asking those questions. Like, it feels kind of awkward. I think actually making it mandatory take some of that awkwardness away from them. But there is, now that I think about it, that sort of magical, um, it's like a strap, a bridle strap that's going back on this, saying, well, yeah, if you keep pestering them, then they'll give you a bad review. So it's like,
Right.
they're going to have to learn to keep the balance of how to ask for those reviews and make sure that they do it in an appropriate way where it's going to come across reflecting well upon them.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Why does there need to be some sort of central solution like this, or an additional service? Why would someone pay for something like this when they can just manage it internally?
Well, because if you built it right, it would have functionality that would streamline a lot of stuff for you. So the way I'm thinking about the app, you could set the app up. You would then connect your most popular review sites that you want to build reviews on. So there's certain review sites that are relevant to certain industries, for example. So you would go ahead and connect the ones that are most important to you. In other words, if you had a lot of reviews on those review sites and had visibility there, that'd probably help you capture a lot of additional business. So it's a marketing channel in that regard. So like, let's just say Google My Business was important to me because I had a local business and I wanted to be #1 in the maps. Well, the #1 ranking signal to be #1 in the maps is reviews. So if you have the most reviews in your area, when somebody is searching for the nearest chiropractor, for example, you'd be #1. And there's a tremendous amount of usage of Google Maps, and that would drive huge sales to your business. Well, how do you get 1,000 reviews? Well, you need to use a product like this, because you can connect to your Google My Business, and then you get your whole organization behind creating delightful experiences and then asking for a review. And so not only you're getting a lot of reviews on Google My Business, but the algorithm within the app could rotate between Google My Business and your other 2 popular review sites. Maybe one of them is Facebook, maybe another one is top rated local. So now you're creating a lot of visibility and ranking signals within those review platforms for your business. So ultimately, it's going to drive back a significant amount of sales and trust for the organization.
Delightful is a much better name than Reviewify, I must say. You're the marketing guy, Marketing 360. We'll talk about that in a bit here. Okay, so we get the idea, and I think everyone knows this. We're all consumers, and we probably every listener out there has read reviews and sought them out when seeking to make a big purchase. But they're probably also guilty of very rarely leaving a review. So definitely identifies a problem. Good solution for it. How would you validate that this is a solution that companies would want to use and that they would pay for?
Well, the way I would do it is I would go ahead and mock it up and have prototypes of what the app would look like, and tell the story of how it would work and the need for it and the value that it would bring if you used it. And then have some price points and try to understand, if I showed this to multiple different businesses and had them go through it, and then just ask them if they were willing to pay for it and what the price range was. If it was a good enough price point they were willing to pay and they could see the value for it, then I would move forward with it. And I think you would need to have enough monthly revenue to overcome the acquisition cost on that, because there is going to be some amount of marketing to get the word out about this. And off the top of my head, I think you want businesses to pay, as close to $100 a month as possible for a product like this. Is kind of where I was thinking. And, right in that $95 range would be ideal. And if they understood the value of what they would get in sales by having a great reputation, I think that's a no-brainer for them. But if they didn't, and there wasn't a lot of buy-in on that, then that would make me question if I would move forward with developing the product.
Bad cop again here. What is to keep a giant marketing competitor like Marketing 360, $100 million company from creating this and adding it onto their platform and crushing you?
Yeah, I mean, nothing, I guess. But at the same time, somebody has to do it, right? So, we build Marketing 360. We're building 100 things right now. And, I honestly, our engineering team is so focused on so many things. We don't have the time to build something like this at this point in time, but I like the idea. Honestly, I didn't really fully think about the idea until, you guys reached out to me about this podcast. I thought it was an interesting podcast, just the idea of just creating an idea. And this just came to mind because it's a problem that I hear about and I see all the time with the small business that we work with. They just don't have a good process to get more reviews, and reviews are so critical to their business. There's so many businesses that spend thousands of dollars a month on marketing and advertising, but they don't have a good reputation. And the problem is they're wasting a lot of marketing dollars, because before somebody buys or fills out a lead form or calls you, they're checking your reviews online. If you don't have reviews or those reviews aren't good, then you're just losing out. You're wasting money. So how do you solve for that? And so that's, this just came to me, and I kind of, I've been thinking about this for a while, but, this podcast actually made me think about it in a little bit more detail. I think it would work because I'm hearing from these small businesses, but ultimately somebody has to take action on something like this for it to happen.
And how many businesses do you think you could sign up? So let's say you can get that magic $100 a month per sign up. How many do you think you get paying $100 a month? A quick calculation to see what kind of revenue you might shoot for.
Well, there's 30 million small businesses in the United States, 30 million of them. So even if you had 1/10 of 1%, I mean, what is that? 30,000 customers, something like that. So, I mean, there's a substantial market out there. And I think, the sky's the limit. You could have hundreds of thousands of small business customers, pretty easily if you did it right.
Yeah, so 30,000, that was correct. Nice math. I checked it in the calculator. 30,000 customers paying each $100 a month. So that gives you about $300,000 revenue a month to work with, which puts you over 3 million a year, which that's a pretty nice market to deal with. And like you said, that's just 1/10 of 1% of all of the clients that you have available. So it's a
30,000 times 100 would be.
Even would that be 3 million?
Be 3 million.
Nice. Thank you very much. Somehow I was able to do like matrix calculus 5 years ago. And since I stopped exercising my math muscle, I basically need a calculator.
I thought you just sandbagged for the listener because you want to keep this idea yourself.
No, just to add single digits at this point. I don't trust myself. So I said, calculator. I don't know what happened. Anyways, thanks. Thanks a lot, Chris.
I think it's a good time, JB, to talk a little bit about Marketing 360 and how some of your experiences there have informed this idea. You brought it up a little bit with what some of the businesses that work with you guys talk about and some of the problems that they face. But can you tell us more about some of the challenges that you have faced in Marketing 360 and some of the insights that you've learned that you would use in building this business to prevent some of those pitfalls?
Yeah, I think you need to make sure that you have a good user experience with the technology. We've built Marketing 360, and we're on our 3rd version now. So we've learned a lot in the process. The initial versions, didn't have nearly the user experience that we do now. And I think that's extremely critical, especially with a SaaS product like this. You need it to be so smooth. It has to be so simple that any small business could get in there and find their way around. I always say, like, if my grandma can't do it, it's just not easy enough. And so you have to build an app that's just so smooth that anybody can get it and get set up and get moving quickly. Because the more complicated it is, the more support people you need and the lower your margins start to go. So the smoother you can make that application, the better. And then the other thing I would say is you have to think about marketing the brand, because you could have the greatest product in the whole world, but if nobody can find it, it's not doing you any good. And I think Bill Gates had the best quote ever when he said, if you have $10,000 to start a business with, spend 9,000 on marketing and 1,000 on the product. So if you're raising funds for a business, make sure not to forget that you need to set some aside, like a pretty good chunk aside for the marketing of it, because you just never get it off the ground without that.
Gosh, that's an amazing quote, especially coming from Bill Gates, who I just always think of as like the computer nerd who started a computer business because he had the technical know-how. So I'm sure he probably learned that along the way, but that's really interesting quote to hear. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, you bet.
So in terms of, I just want to, I'm just curious. I'm just throwing this in here, slightly off topic, but maybe on topic when it comes to getting reviews and culture within a company. You've grown this company from, you know, zero to giant. And what's the culture like in your business? I know you used to play football and you were a quarterback and you really enjoy being an athlete, and you talk about having a team of champions and things like that. You talk a little bit about the culture of your business, maybe put it in the light of, as you grow a new company, what type of things to look for in culture.
Sure. Yeah, we have something here we say, which is championship leaders build championship teams that drive championship performance. And in a nutshell, to me, what that means is an A+ strategy plus a C+ team is going to equal a C+ result. But if you have an A+ team with a C+ strategy, that could be a B+ result. It just doesn't work the other way around. So you have to focus on the people. And I think that is a good thing to bring up, even just with starting this business, is you have to have a great piece of technology, but you have to have great people that are building it. And you have to have great people that are selling it and marketing it and supporting it ultimately to be really successful. And to me, culture just comes down to two things. It's really just execution and the team, right? A championship team is culture and execution. So you have to have values and you have to have a mission that people stand behind. So with Madwire and Marketing 360, our mission is to help small businesses grow and their local communities glow. And we believe if we do that one thing well, it makes the world a better place because people have jobs, it puts food on table, kids through college, et cetera. And so with a business like this, you want to have a mission like that too, which, maybe it's, we want to help small businesses be more delightful. And by doing that, we're going to create better customer experiences for everybody. It's going to be a better community because all the businesses are so delightful to work with, right? And ultimately, the more delightful companies are going to be more successful by using our product, which means more people are going to get jobs with businesses or good businesses that believe in good customer experience and creating delightful experiences. So if you have a mission like that behind your organization, it keeps everybody aligned. And that, I think that really helps the culture.
One of the themes that I've noticed in some of the concepts that you bring up here, JB, and a lot of the guests that we've had in the past, is the most important thing to focus on is often simple, but it's maybe hard to execute. And that quote that you had of "it's got to be so simple that your grandma can use it," that is really hard to actually build something that simple. And it can be really easy for people to think, well, that's close enough, and cut corners on that. I also think about this recent quote that I heard from Steve Jobs via Paul Graham. He talks about, Steve Jobs always talked about making something insanely great. And if you actually think about what that means, insanely great, like to the point of being insane that you would go that far, right? Yeah. And that's not easy to do, but it's comprised in two words, right? Insanely great. And people it's simple to convey. Can you talk more about how you can, I guess, steer the ship of a company like this with some of these guiding principles Are there any other guiding principles like that you would use to make sure that if you follow this stuff, you'll be okay? All the rest of it is you'll figure it out. You mentioned the team. You mentioned making it so easy that your grandma can use. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, the blocking and tackling of business, I think you want to know what your numbers look like. So you need to build out a model initially, which is going to be how much should we spend in marketing? How many signups should that generate? Is there a free trial period? What is that? What's the conversion rate to a sale, right? And then what's the expected lifetime value of that customer? How long do they stay? What's the expected churn? You need to at least have a baseline model. I think that's absolutely critical that you feel good about. And then, it's not going to be 100% accurate. So then every month you're going to be slightly tweaking it based on, the actuals. And over time you develop essentially a mathematical formula. And that mathematical formula makes it so it's basically a mathematical certainty that you're going to reach your goal if you put this amount of money into marketing. And that's ultimately what you want to do, is get to the point where you can say, if I put this much into marketing, I'm going to get this many signups, and this many are going to convert to paid, and this is how long that they'll stay, and this is how many that we will lose, that will churn out. And when you get to that point, you're very accurate on your projections and everything, but you just need to at least have that initial model that you feel good about, and then build off of that. I think that's really important. And businesses that don't do that, they're surprised when it doesn't work 6 months down the road, but they could have figured that out a lot earlier because maybe the model didn't make sense.
I want to flip this question on its head too. You get to work with a lot of business owners, so you get to see a lot of businesses that I can imagine don't do so well. What are some of the mistakes that business owners make?
Well, I mean, some of them are just the most obvious things where they're not following up with the customer. They're not following up with the leads. There's just a lack of follow-up. So I see there's a breakdown in sales a lot. There's a breakdown in the sales process. There's a quote, here's another quote day here, but you can never believe that your product is so good it doesn't need to be sold. That's the height of arrogance. Which means even if your product is unbelievably simple and beautiful and great, it still needs to be sold. So you have to think about that. Who's the salesperson? Who's responsible for that with the follow-ups to make sure that you're hitting your sales goals? Because I see a lot of breakdowns there. And then the other one we touched on is just not enough of investment in marketing. There's just not enough of investment. Some people think just building a website and a product, people will magically find it, like the field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. That is not the case. You have to get the fans to the field, right? So you have to spend enough money on marketing to do that.
I got a question for you. Okay, I'm imagining a grudge match between the never believe the product is so good it doesn't need to be sold, and the product is so good it sells itself person.
Yeah.
They got to battle it out. I think, and also just that concept of nothing's too good to be sold is going to crush a lot of like those developers that are building that app, that they're just going to pop up on the app store and it's gonna blow up. How do you explain something like Google in the beginning? Right? In the beginning, Google was just a box, and it was just, here, what's your search? What are you looking for? And somehow they managed to grow. And I know you maybe don't know the details of that story. And I know a lot of their initial revenue came from sort of like allowing people to sell ads and things like that. But what do you say to something like that? A product that looks like it just grew out of thin air and people just liked it.
You have to sell the pain. You have to sell the pain, not the product. And if there's no pain, then why are you making the product? You're trying to solve for some kind of problem. So you have to focus on the pain. You have to focus on the problem, and you have an answer for that. And maybe they never thought about that answer, but they agree at least with the fact that there's a problem that needs to be fixed. And if they like your potential solution, they're going to go with you ultimately. So I think for a product like this, you just have to say, like, do you agree that ranking on top of Google My Business in your local area would crush it? Like, you would get crazy amounts of sales. Yeah, I got a solution for that. I got a solution for that problem. This is how that works, And then I think that connects the dots for people so that they would move forward.
Let's get a little bit deeper into the action steps that a listener can take out here. The people that are listening to the show, They probably don't have the resources that you do, JB. They may not have all the industry connections and some of the financial resources that you've accumulated since you built your business. What can someone who is listening to this show, what are some of the action steps that they can take to get this idea going?
I think you write out all the details of how you think that it should work based on what we talked about. There's a lot more. I mean, we can go much deeper than even what we talked about on this product. So write all of that out, and then find yourself a good UI designer. You know, there's local UI designers. There's lots of online directories to find people like that. Then submit your idea and get some UI designs put together. That's not that expensive, really. At the end of the day, and get those initial mock-up comps back, provide some feedback there, feel it out, see what you like about it. And then when you have the story and you feel good about it, walk some business owners through it, you know, some friends that you know, maybe some family members. I think we probably all know a handful of business owners in some capacity that we could reach out to and just see what they think and get their feedback. And I think you just kind of build off of that.
You know what? I'm noticing an interesting pattern here, Chris, when I look back at the different shows that we've had. And I'm just going through Ray Dalio's principles, and he's talking about how there's different personality types. And, you know, one thing he calls out is that there's like the big picture thinkers who have a vision and they dream something. And then there's the people that are a little bit more or a lot more, they've got to make a plan first, right? They've got to have a plan instead of just dreaming about the generals of what it's going to be. Detail oriented people. And it sounds like JB, you're more of that detail oriented type. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
And that's interesting too, just to see that, you know, I'm seeing a pattern of two ways to get a business started. And one is just get out there and take action. You kind of know what the general idea is. You go out, you sell to people, you see what's going on, you lay a foundation that way. And we've definitely had a lot of people say, hey, let's draw it up. Let's put the numbers in place. Let's make sure everything works out on paper first. And then we'll start working together. I don't know. I'm curious of your opinion on this, JB, but I think the one key thing to do is to recognize which of those types of person you are and make sure you bring people on your team very soon that are going to be the other type. Going to be a bit, if you're a detail oriented, they're a big picture, or if they're a big picture, or if you're a big picture, bring a detail oriented. Any experiences with that kind of thing on your teams?
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. You know, we always say 2 heads are stronger than 1 and 100 are way stronger than 10. So the more, you know, ways that you can look at something, different perspectives, is only going to make you stronger. So I think that's really important. Diversity is huge. Diversity of mindset is powerful, and skill set is really powerful. So I 100% agree with that. To have a partner that, you know, maybe has strengths in your areas of weakness is obviously ideal. So looking for that, I think, is important.
One of the questions that I'm picturing a listener may have, just picking it back up with the action steps that you outlined, we're talking to friends who own businesses, maybe second, third degree connections that you know. At what point do you start asking them for money? A, and B, if you're someone who doesn't have a lot of experience with sales, do you have any tips for someone to get over that hurdle?
Well, I would have my initial customers would be free. You know, I'd have a number of businesses using it for free, and they're basically the brand ambassadors, and you know, they would use it for free forever, provide feedback, provide reviews. So you want to capture that initial feedback and reviews, and you may have people want to talk to people, so they could maybe be like your case studies, your customer stories. I think is key. So that group, I'm not sure I'd ever ask for money from them, but once I feel confident in the product and ready to actually go live and start charging people, that's when I would activate that.
How much money do you think you need to put into the business before you go live with it?
I hadn't thought that deep about this, but just off the top of my head, I think, you know, developing something like this would probably be $25,000, somewhere in that area. And then you would probably want to invest, you know, call it $5,000 a month in marketing to get the thing going. And then, you know, marketing after that is like a flywheel. So what you want to do is make sure your model reinvests back at least 10% of sales back into marketing. So as the revenue increases, your marketing budget, like a snowball, increases with it. If you don't do that, marketing can't be fixed because that will just flatline your sales. So your marketing budget needs to increase as well if you want your sales to keep growing. So you may want to set your marketing budget at 10% of your expected sales or your target sales initially. But as your sales actually increase, it will eventually, just be a wrap back of sales into marketing.
I'm going to come back to the question about a competitor like Marketing 360 crushing you by copying this functionality of Delightful and incorporating into their product. How do you protect against something like that?
I don't know if you can operate in a state of fear. I think you just have to go. And what's going to happen there if you're really successful is a company like Marketing 360 or some other brand will just buy you. Or you'll say no because you're doing so well and they're not giving you a good enough valuation and you just keep going, ultimately there's so many small businesses out there that it doesn't really matter. Like there's more than enough business to go around. If you're doing a good job with your marketing and your brand and your product's good, they're not going to take every single small business there ever was to their brand. That's impossible. So just keep competing. I would say just compete and make a product so good that you can compete, and or the competitor is going to say, all right, here's X number of millions of dollars. We're just going to buy you because you've done such a great job, and we don't even want to try to build what you've built. We just want to bolt that into our solution, and we want to go.
I like that attitude. Yeah, it's definitely clearly a lot of people struggle with this, and I know I see you're making sort of motivational videos on YouTube that kind of help put people in the right mindset for this kind of stuff. I think that's great. But there's kind of like a bit of an epidemic. I think it's just maybe it's people so used to sitting still and not having to take much on, of just having a fear mindset, right? Of just like being in that state of fear and having that be the thing that you dwell on as opposed to just go. Anything, do you tell me about yourself? You must have gotten into a fear mindset here and there, and maybe it happens a lot, but what do you use to snap yourself out of it? Or is it a snap, or is it like a slow thing? Is there something that take you from zero, like fearful to fearless? What kind of things do you use?
I just try to always be forward looking. I think you always have to have a plan, and with a plan, there's hope. And if you don't have a plan and you don't have hope, you start to turn into a state of fear. And I think ultimately you can check yourself because, ultimately things are never as good as they seem and they're never as bad as they seem. Somewhere in the middle lies reality. And I think we need to remind ourselves of that sometimes. There's billions of people in the world, and there's a lot of people that are, much worse off than we are when you actually step back and look at it. So reset your mindset, focus on the positives, and develop a plan. Once you develop a plan, you start to have more hope. Hope is reignited and you're re-excited and you go. You're going to have problems, you're going to fail, things are not going to go right, but you just pivot, right? You don't stop, you don't quit, you just pivot. And when you pivot, that's just a new plan, So that's the way that I've tackled it. Just try to be forward looking.
Yeah, I like that. So just the fact of having a plan and going and following the steps that you've laid out, whether they're going to work or not, is something that can really help you keep out of that fear mindset. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think we're ready for a rapid fire section here. Are you ready, JB?
Yeah, ready to go.
All right, let's do it. Explain the idea to your grandmom.
Grandma, I have a way for you to get significantly more sales, and it's to help you rank at the top of Google My Business for your salon that you started. And we can get so many more women in the community to come in there by getting you more reviews. Can I show you how that would work?
Is this a 6, 7, or 8-figure per month business?
It has the potential for 8. The market's big enough.
Where do your first dollars come from?
From you. You have to, hopefully you have some funds set aside. If not, work an extra job, but it comes from you. You're going to own 100% of the company that way.
Who is your first customer?
Friends and family that own businesses.
What would make you quit this idea?
If I showed everybody the prototypes, gave them my sales pitch, and they didn't want to buy it, they just didn't think it made sense. I'd show it to maybe 100 different businesses and see what they think.
What is the first action a listener should take?
Put it in the crock pot and think about it over the course of a week. If you're still excited about it after that, dig in, start creating a plan, and go from there.
Nice. You made it through. It does remind me of a clarifying question that I had. When you were targeting these business owners, would you focus on a specific niche? And if you do, how do you avoid building a solution within a niche that doesn't apply to a broader group of business owners?
I think it would apply to every business because every business needs reviews. So I don't think there needs to be a specific niche, but I would think about that in terms of marketing strategies, because how you sell the product to a home service company would be different than an e-commerce store, et cetera. So I would think about it from that perspective, but the product should work for any business in my mind.
This is one of the more efficient interviews we've done, JB. You're just on top of it. Normally I'm sitting here trying to like, oh God, come on, we gotta make it here.
Told me to be concise. That's what I'm trying to
No,
do.
yeah, you're killing it, man.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
So this is part of the behind the scenes aspect for those watching on live Facebook, so you can see how the sausage is made.
Cool.
It'll be cut out, but Ethan, did you have anything else? Or are you ready to wrap up? You're muted.
Sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, we can wrap up here pretty soon. We got Junaid online. He said hi, but he didn't have a question or anything. So I don't know if we got any listener questions at the moment.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's good stuff. We'll get some time back for this Friday afternoon here. So we're coming up on time. JB, thanks for the conversation. To the listener out there who is excited about the idea that JB has shared, is excited about Delightful, bought into the idea that business owners need help getting more reviews and think that gamifying it is a good approach, take some action, follow through the steps that JB has listed for you here, and report back to us. Email us at update@runwithit.fm. Tell us what you've done. Every listener who responds will get access to a private Facebook group of action takers. One lucky listener may get a free mentoring session with JB and potentially a business partnership on this idea. He's the right person to talk to, obviously, with Marketing 360. So yeah, get out there and run with this idea. JB, tell us a little bit more about Marketing 360.
Marketing 360 is a singular platform that a small business can use to both manage their business and market their business. So it has everything you need from payments, so to do invoicing, subscription billing, e-commerce, to a CRM to manage your leads and customers. It does have some review management features within it, but it doesn't have the gamification piece for the company. So that's the missing component. There's email marketing, social media management built within it, multi-channel advertising, so you can run ads like on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, etc., all within one platform. So the beauty is it's all in one platform. So through one login and one low monthly bill, you have everything you need, and it all talks to each other. Because we believe you can't be great without integrate. And the only way to truly integrate is have everything in one place so that you can truly automate. And so that's what we've done with Marketing 360. So yeah, if you're looking for a platform to grow your business, check it out.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. JB, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for the time here. Looking forward to continuing the conversation later on. And to the listener, see you next week.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Had a good time.
All right, Shaw, log us off the Facebook and YouTube. Be right back.
Sure. Yep. All right. I'm going to stop the Zencastr recording.